If you're a longtime fan of the series, you already know that for years in the West, Final Fantasy III was basically the lost entry. Today we're talking about Final Fantasy III Pixel Remaster, and why this release is such a big deal. Not just as a remaster, but as the first time many Western fans truly got to experience the original 2D version officially. For the longest time, if you lived outside Japan, your only real exposure to FFI was a Final Fantasy III on the Nintendo DS. Before that, fan translations. That's it. The original 2D version of Final Fantasy III never officially came west. So when Square Enix released a Pixel Remaster, it marked the first time the original vision was properly localized and widely available. For many fans, this wasn't just nostalgia, it was preservation. Now, let's talk about what was happening behind the scenes during development. After the experimental systems of Final Fantasy II, the team at Square, including series creator Hironobu Saguchi, realized they had pushed mechanics in a direction that divided players. FFI removed additional leveling and replaced it with a stat growth system based on actions, which was ambitious but controversial. So with FFII, the developers wanted to refine, not abandon, innovation. They asked themselves, how do we keep freedom, but make it structured and fun? The answer was the evolved job system. Rather than locking players into classes at the start or tying stat growth to odd mechanics, FFI allowed players to switch jobs throughout the adventure. This preserved customization, while restoring a clearer sense of progression. It was a smart design correction. The team focused on balance, making sure each job had purpose. Dragoons for specific bosses, scholars for item efficiency, ninjas and sages as powerful late-game upgrades. Compared to FFII, it felt more strategic, more polished, and far less punishing. Technically, the developers were also pushing the Famicom hardware to its limits. Cartridge memory was tight, but by 1990, they had more experience optimizing data. They packed in larger dungeons, more enemy variety, expanded spell effects, and one of the most ambitious final acts on the system. While it was still an NES-era title, it felt like a bridge toward the 16-bit design philosophy that would fully bloom on the Super Nintendo in later entries. Story-wise, FFI returned to a more mythic structure after FFI's rebellion-focused narrative. You follow 4 orphan youths chosen by the Crystals of Light, restoring balance between light and darkness. Unlike the later 3D remake, the original heroes were blank slates, representing the player. The floating continent opening, the revelation of a larger world, and the descent into the world of darkness gave the game an epic scale that felt bigger than anything the series had done before. Musically, Nobuo Uematsu was also leveling up. Tracks like Eternal Wind carried a sweeping emotional tone that matched the adventure scale. In the Pixel Remaster, those compositions are rearranged with richer instrumentation, while still honoring the original melodies. The Pixel Remaster team modernized the visuals with clean 2D sprites, refined menus, auto-battle options, and quality-of-life updates, while keeping the core design intact. Unlike the 3D remake, which rebalanced and personalized the cast, this version preserves the original structure that Japanese players experienced in 1990. And that's really the key point. FFII wasn't just a sequel. It was a course correction and a foundation builder. It refined what didn't work in FFII, introduced the job system in its iconic flexible form, expanded technical ambition on the Famicom, and set the stage for future classics like Final Fantasy V. For decades, the West only knew the 3D interpretation. Now, with the Pixel Remaster, players can finally see the game that reshaped the franchise at a critical moment in its evolution and understand why it was such a leap forward from Final Fantasy II.